Welcome to Accountable, where your business is our business. Hosted by David R. Peters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Accountable, the podcast for CFOs by a CFO. Hey, my name's Dave. It's so good for all of you to join us here today. You know, one of the things that comes up a lot in my conversations with all of you out there that when we're at conferences and when we're just kind of talking is a lot of you ask about marketing. A lot of you ask about just how to get the name out there. I think especially, a lot of my client base is as several of you know, is startup businesses, and startup businesses are tough. You gotta get people to pay attention to your product. You gotta get people to pay attention to you. And that's a tough thing. And so there's multiple ways to do it. But marketing is, I think, one of those things that I think a lot of financial services professionals, they just don't feel that comfortable with. I mean, especially when I was going through school, I know that, I took the marketing classes I had to take, and that was about it. And so, but I do think that marketing is incredibly important, especially if you're going to thrive in today's world. And I think especially as a lot of folks are giving up kind of brick and mortar buildings, I think that it becomes even more important. So that's going to be our topic today. We're going to be talking about social media trends. We're going to be talking about marketing trends. And we have a great guest. So Sam Anderson is the owner and founder of Enso Media in Richmond, Virginia. One of my favorite people, good guy to know, and just is somebody who has helped my business as we've been kind of rolling along and expanding. And so, Sam, I just want to say thank you so much for being on Accountable.
For sure. And I've obviously known you for a little bit and been working with you now. I didn't realize you had such a great podcast voice, man. Like, this sounds great coming through my headphones right now.
This is my radio voice for those of you that are keeping score at home. So, Sam, you gotta tell us, and especially too because I know that you take a lot of pride in the name. Yep. Can you talk about the name Enso Media, because it's a cool name and it's got a cool kind of background to it?
Absolutely. So Enso is actually Japanese for full circle. And that was the thought process, is that whatever our clients need on a digital platform with their marketing, we're able to bring them full circle. So with that, we do the podcasting services. Video marketing is probably our most famous service that we offer. Photography, social media management, graphic design, drone services. We have social media training courses for clients and the public here. So really anything you need online to take your brand to the next level, we got it here.
Yeah. So really kind of trying to be kind of a full service group for folks. And you have a lot of, I think what's interesting about you too is that you service a lot of different industries.
Absolutely.
And you're also kind of, you can kind of scale up, for kind of bigger businesses.
Definitely.
And also you deal with, some novices, which I think, some of the folks that are listening to this podcast, I'm sure that they kind of feel that they're kind of novices in this area too.
For sure. So yeah, with that, I mean, I originally founded the company because I'm a serial entrepreneur. I still, as we sit here and speak right now, I own and operate 5 different brands.
Right.
Which if you're listening to this podcast a year from now, that number may have doubled. But when I first started, Enso was my third business. And the first 2 businesses I started, I needed these services. And I ran into one or two options. It was either I went to the local studio and asked them to do a promo video for my business, and they'd quote me $16,000 to do a 30-second video. Or I'd go, this is circa 2010s, I go to Facebook and say, hey, who knows somebody who can do a promo video? And all the responses were, my cousin Tim got a camera for Christmas. He can shoot a video for $50. So it was like the stuff I wanted, I couldn't afford. The stuff I could afford, I didn't want. And there was nobody in this marketplace that kind of met people in the middle where you could get that quality marketing that you were looking for, but at a price that most small to medium-sized companies could afford. So that's been our main focus. With that, obviously wanting to remain recession-proof. If I'm only working with individuals who, are generating, $5,000 a month in their business,
sure.
If the market shifts, they're going to be the first ones to cancel with us. So we have to have those large organizations to kind of keep us recession proof, allows us to grow the organization, things like that. So, we can definitely scale this up to work with those large organizations. And funny enough, like, they're starting to come to us more than us seeking them out. So whether you're a large company, you got 200 employees, or whether you're just getting started and you're a solopreneur, like, there's something here we have for you.
I think that's great. And I think it's also interesting because you see certain things, I think, when you start a business from scratch that you probably don't necessarily see otherwise. It's hard to get a business off the ground.
It is not easy,
because there's just a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of things that, pieces that you have to just make work. And, I had a friend of mine who used to describe it as sort of taking, kind of a wire and chewing gum and kind of, cobbling something together.
You got to MacGyver that thing, man.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and there's, so I was teaching a class and I used the term MacGyver and the person didn't know what I was talking about. And I felt there's certain times in my life where I feel just very.
Well, they should know that. There's actually, I haven't watched it yet. There's a remake. There's a new MacGyver that's out now.
You would think that people would be at least watching the remake, right? Okay, so anyway, but for
if
those
you don't know who MacGyver is, go do your research.
Yeah,
There's
no
YouTube
kidding.
for a reason.
No kidding. Yeah, go out and at least go do a Google search on MacGyver. But you're cobbling things together. You're trying to sort of make things work. What are some of the things that you see that are kind of for like a lot of novices? Because I'm sure that you get a fair amount of that.
No, for sure.
You get novice people who really don't know what they're doing. Like from a marketing and social media, I think for a lot of people, it's big and scary. And so what do you tell people kind of up front? What is it that you say, hey, you kind of need to know this before we get going?
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing I see from people just getting started is paralysis of analysis.
Yeah.
They're thinking that they have to have all their stuff together and they have to have perfect lighting and they have to do this and they have to have a graphic part. You don't need any of that stuff to get started. Yeah. The main thing is just get started. I love the saying, a garbage can gets a steak at least once. Because at some point, if you're remaining consistent with it, even if you're doing it wrong, think about it like this when it comes to physical fitness. If I go in the gym 5 days a week, but my form isn't right when I'm doing a deadlift, or my arms aren't perfectly the way they're supposed to be when I'm doing curls, I may not be doing it all the way right, but I'm still going to get results from that.
Right.
So that's where it is with marketing, where people have to understand, number one, just get started.
Yeah.
The number two biggest mistake I see, especially from a novice, and I see this at, companies that have been in business for 10 plus years. Everything they're doing online is sell. That is not why people engage on social media. People stop on a post for one or two reasons. One, they're being educated, or two, they're being entertained. If you're not doing one of those two things, they keep moving on. So much, in fact, where consumers are today, we will literally fork over money not to be advertised to. So me and my wife pay the extra $4 a month for Hulu so that when we're watching our favorite show, we don't have to see commercials. Yep. I pay for Sirius XM in my car so that when I want to hear a certain station, I'm not bombarded with radio ads and all this other kind of stuff. Yep. So consumers today are smart, and we will literally say, take my money, just don't try to sell me something.
Right.
So when it comes to your marketing and your advertising, I'm not saying don't ever make a post that says buy this or use my service.
Right.
But it has to be way more value driven than it is salesy. Because if you're adding value to people, they're going to continue to engage. They're going to follow you. They're going to share that content with their friends and family.
Yeah.
So that it's this concept from Gary Vaynerchuk, who I believe is the social media god of our time. Sure. Gary V online, if you're searching him. He wrote a book, which I think is almost 10 years old now, and I actually heard that he's doing a remake of this book. But the book's called Jab, 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 Right Hook. So it's this whole concept of the jabs are you adding value. The right hook is when you're going for the sale. So I'll give you a perfect example. When I first became an entrepreneur, I think it was after my first year and a half, I decided I was going to write a book. So it was a little ebook. I think I sold it for like $6.99 or something like that on Amazon. This was like June. I knew I was releasing the book in December. So for 6 straight months, I didn't ask anybody for anything online. I just added value. Hey, here's how you develop a social media following. Here are the platforms you should be using. Here's how you create video yourself, blah, blah, blah. So after that 6 months, when December came and I asked people, hey, my book just dropped. I'd appreciate it if you guys supported me and spent the $6 to go buy my book. Yeah. Nobody looked at me like, geez, this guy Sam's always asking for something. There was the opposite thought of, well, man, this guy's given me so much information for free. He's shown me how to build my business. The least I could do is spend $7 on his book. Mm-hmm. So when you take that approach and you go value driven first, I think that's where people see the biggest results, but that's also the biggest mistake people make when they're getting started.
I think, what you said there, you said a lot of really interesting things there. And I just want to make sure that everybody out there kind of caught a lot of what you said. So first thing that you said was, you said, just get started. I think it's important that, especially for financial services folks. Okay. And I'm putting myself out there. Okay. Sometimes we look for perfection. I think especially for, folks, if you are in, if you're listening to this and you're in corporate finance, you're in tax,
you guys are all numbers.
Yeah. Well, and
you got to be perfect.
And in all honesty, you get paid to be right.
Yep.
Right. So I think that's an important thing to kind of learn, to just kind of put yourself out there. The other thing that you said there is you said, kind of put value, out there first, and that is ultimately going to lead to sales. And I think that's tough. Okay. Because that requires patience. The other thing is that especially if you're first getting started with a business, and I'm sure you've experienced this, when it's your livelihood and it's hard to be patient sometimes.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to build it, that's what it takes.
Yeah, and the marketing component is just one leg of what you should be doing.
Sure.
All your sales shouldn't be coming from social media. I think we've gotten good enough where I think about 50 to 60% of the clients that we convert are from our social media platforms. But man, I'm out there every week networking. I'm meeting different people. I'm reaching out to people online, asking if I can be a guest on their podcast. I'm doing every and anything I can. And in some situations, like we're sponsors at events, so the logo's getting out there and things like that. So you definitely want to keep up with that. But, looking at somebody specifically in your industry, like one of the first videos we did for you, you came to our studio and did some reels, which we can touch on that because short form is killing it right now.
Yeah.
There was nothing you said in that first video that said hire me.
Right.
And I remember, because I told somebody the story the other day. It was like Sunday afternoon, you hit me up and said, hey, did our YouTube page get hacked? Because I'm getting more views now than I ever have on these other videos.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, because you're adding value to people.
Yeah.
And then you also did it in a format that's hot right now, which is short form vertical content.
Well, let's talk about some of the opportunities that are out there, because I think that, the other thing that I think people worry about is there's a lot of noise on social media, right? I mean, so, for a small guy, I think that's intimidating. So, our choices are we try to kind of keep up with it, or we withdraw.
Yep.
And so I'd be curious to hear, because obviously, I think you think that there's still opportunities out there on 100%. Social media.
So much.
But there's a lot of garbage and
for sure
stuff out there too.
So number one, I think most people need to look at it. I have a different personality. I don't want to just take over my local area. I want to rule the world. I want domination. There's a plan to have us in at least 20 states in the next 10 years.
Right.
So my approach to business is a lot different. You have a lot of people that may be listening now that they just want to be solopreneurs.
Sure.
They don't want to build a team. They don't want to have a staff of 100 people and all these buildings and all stuff. They want to make their six figures.
Yeah.
They want to do their job. They've ultimately just created a job for themselves, but it's something that they own.
Right.
Completely fine. There are all different levels of being an entrepreneur. But with that understanding, the opportunity is still there. So this is what I'm telling a lot of people. You got 2 years right now to be a content creator.
Yeah.
24 months. The clock is ticking because it doesn't matter if you're an accountant.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, a roofer, a videographer. You being in business for yourself is not enough. You have to add value and become a content creator. So there is still opportunity there. But the thing that drives me crazy is social media is free.
Right.
It's free 99. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
And there's never been a time in history where it's better to be a business owner and an entrepreneur, because you literally are walking around with a device that used to take, this device with everything it does, that would cost you upwards of $20,000 in order to be able to use that sort of technology. And you're literally sitting on it every day.
Right.
Like, utilize the tools that you have in front of you. The other thing, so you talk about like where the attention is and things like that. So we're on your podcast right now.
Sure.
I literally just finished an episode of my podcast right before you walked in here.
Right.
Let me hit your viewers with a number. Right now on YouTube alone, 3.7 million videos are uploaded every single day.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. Just on YouTube, 3.7 million videos uploaded every single day. That's not Facebook. That's not TikTok. That's not Instagram. That's nothing else but YouTube. Podcasting.
Right.
Worldwide, I think there are actually over 1 million established podcasts. Active podcast. And the term definition for podcast in terms of active means that you're uploading 1 episode a month.
Right.
Out of that million, there are only 300,000 active podcasts worldwide. So you start chopping that down into different segments. For your industry, there may only be 80 people in your field that have a podcast right now. And it's who's going to go hardest and who's going to go the fastest and who's going to stay the most consistent. So if the bar is only set at 1 a month, what if you did 4 podcasts a month? You had drop a new episode every single week. Things start to pick up. What if you started doing 2 episodes a week? You're quickly going to find yourself in a position where you may be in the top 1 to 10 percentile of podcasts worldwide for your industry. The opportunity is insane. Not to mention, there's always going to be that next social media platform.
Sure. Facebook,
Instagram, TikTok. This isn't the last thing that we're going to see. There's going to be something huge to come within the next, I say, 2 to 4 years.
Sure.
And it may be something that's built by one of the giants already, but there's going to be another platform. Understand what audience is there and how you can capitalize on it early. Because where we are with podcasting right now, everybody thinks everybody and their grandma has a podcast right now, which may be true, but they're not active on it. So it doesn't matter that they made a podcast. But when that next social media train comes along, do your research, jump into it, and go all in. And there are some platforms that I wish I had kept that mindset with. Like Clubhouse, I think, is a great social media network, which if you're not familiar with podcasts, it's literally just like this. It's just audio format. There are no pictures and links and all this other stuff. It's literally just audio chats that are taking place. I went hard when it first dropped, but I didn't remain consistent with it. I think I went from like 0 to 400 followers within just a matter of a couple weeks, which in that period of time is a drastic jump. But I know people that are flourishing on Clubhouse right now. The masses, you don't hear about Clubhouse on ads and TV. Nobody's talking about it, but there are millions of people there that are engaging on that platform. So you just have to be aware of what's up and coming, but don't neglect the platforms that are already there. So just because TikTok may be the hot new thing now, your audience isn't there. If you're going after people in their 50s, they are not TikToking. Right. So don't just jump ship. You need to stay where your audience is.
I think also, too, it's important to recognize that, like, if you're going to do something, like a podcast, there's got to be some love there for actually doing it. Right. I mean, so I've had a few people that have asked me about my podcast when I've been at conferences and things like that. And people say, hey, I'd like to do a podcast. And I say, well, do you like interviewing people? Do you like talking to people? And they're like, well, not so much. And I'm like, OK, well,
don't be a podcaster.
That may not be a good choice. I mean, so I think that, I think you're right. The opportunity's got to be there. I also think, though, too, I mean, you got to actually like it enough to invest in it and want to do it.
And there are like one reason I push people, besides the numbers I gave you about podcasting and why it's such a great space to grow right now, because I've doubled down on my podcasting. I wasn't as hard before. Once I learned those numbers, I said I have to go hard. If you don't like being on camera, one of the first things I recommend to people is, well, you can do a podcast. If you're comfortable with talking, you just don't want to be on camera, then a podcast is a great medium for you. If you don't want to talk or you don't want to be seen on camera, the written blogs are not dead. There are people that subscribe. There are people that pay for newsletter subscriptions that they're looking for written form content on a regular basis. So there is one medium in between. Like if you don't like talking or if you don't like being on camera, you can do podcasting. If you don't like talking on a podcast, then you can do written content. Like there's something there for everybody, but it's always, we're hearing this is the new thing. People are getting these type of results. And the results that you guys are hearing from one individual, that person's a unicorn. They're an outlier. The typical person isn't seeing those types of results. Majority of people in their lifetime will never have 500,000 people following them on any platform. But we need to understand like what those numbers really mean. I would much rather have 2,000 people that are in love with my brand, passionate about what I do, and going to continue to push me out, versus having 500,000 people that really don't care about what I do. They saw me do one video where I'm dancing, they thought it was funny, and they followed me. And I just have 500,000 blank users that aren't really supporting my business. So from a grander scale, understanding in your particular market, even if you had 500 people following your page and they were people that were engaged with your brand, you're winning.
Yeah.
Think about that. 500 people. Most people don't even know 500 people. So the ability to be connected with that amount of people and they actually support what it is that you're doing and who you are, you're winning.
Yeah.
So we can't get caught up in these numbers of, oh, well, this guy has 10,000 followers and I only have 3,000. It doesn't matter. Number one, he could have paid for some of those followers.
Good point.
And I can go through and look at that and instantly tell, like, if you got 20 Muhammads following you and you're in Miami, Florida, those are probably paid followers.
Sure.
But don't get caught up in the superficial stuff of what we're seeing, the engagement, because you want to take those relationships that you're creating online and turn those into real world experiences.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Now, we should say, though, I mean, that doesn't mean that there's not trends out there that you are seeing. And one of the ones that you mentioned here that you made me aware of, and I guess maybe this says something about me, but, is short form videos. And so some of those things, a lot of folks are trying to do things with video right now. Do you think that the short form trend kind of continues, or is that
100%?
Okay.
If you are posting anything, do not focus on photos, web links, anything. Only do vertical reels right now. That's all you need to focus on with your brand. Number one, we're slaves to the algorithm.
Yeah.
We have to do based off of what the algorithm is going to provide. Right now on every platform, YouTube Shorts, obviously TikTok, Instagram Reels, and Facebook Reels, they're pushing vertical short form content harder than anything else right now. So most of the stuff that you're doing, if you have somewhat of a small following, is probably getting lost in the sauce. But if you're doing video, more than likely that's going to get pushed out a lot harder than any other form of content that you can make. The other piece, because of this form of content, we have short attention spans right now.
You are. I was just going to say that you're dead on.
Yeah,
yep.
And I've always I've had this joke for years. When I do a talk, I tell people I've seen somebody cuss out a microwave because a hot pocket takes 2 minutes to cook. We want what we want, and we want it right now.
Yep.
But this isn't a new concept. You think about, I'm a big movie buff. Trailers or short form pieces of content meant to hook you to take the next step.
Yeah.
That's all. My new favorite saying, I'm pretty sure I coined this if somebody hadn't stolen it from me already, is short form content leads to long-term results.
Yeah.
Because you only have 3 seconds to capture somebody's attention.
Yeah.
3 seconds. So we have gotten good at figuring out what can I get somebody to say that's immediately going to get somebody to remain with that piece of content. Or it's something visually that they're seeing in the first 3 seconds that's going to keep them interested. Because how many times have you been scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, somebody gets 2 words out of their mouth and you're like, nope.
Yeah. Right.
Scroll. Don't want to hear it. You got to have something there that hooks people. So the short form isn't going away because movie trailers aren't going away.
Sure.
Like for my entire life, I've been seeing 30-second movie trailers.
Good point.
It's just been in the form of television. But this is a good opportunity to introduce yourself because some of the content that you've done in short form, I want more of that information.
Yeah.
Like it's not a bait and switch. You're making me want more. Because you didn't give me enough.
Right.
It's like if we go to a 5-star restaurant, you ever been to one of those real expensive restaurants and you're paying $150 for a steak and the steak is like that big?
Yep.
What does that make? You're craving more of it.
Yeah.
Because you got a little bit of it. So that's all short form video is you're giving your audience a little taste of who you are and what you're about. Now, if they are genuinely interested and they want to learn more about who you are and what you do, they're going to go seek out your long form content. They're going to go to your website. They're going to call you. They're going to go to your YouTube page and look at your 20-minute long videos. But initially, nobody who's searching YouTube is generally watching a video of somebody for 20 minutes that they've never heard or seen before.
Yeah.
Like there has to be some pull there. Now, if it's something like, hey, I need to fix my dishwasher and there's a tutorial, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But if it's you sitting there talking about tax breaks and they've never heard about you and you got a 30-minute video on YouTube, probably great information. If they haven't seen you at all or heard anything, they're not really going to trust what you're saying. But if they've come across 15 of your reels and they're finally like that one time it's going to hit them and they're going to be like, man, this guy's talking some good stuff. Let me go to his page and really see what he's about.
Yeah. I think that's an excellent point. And I think especially in financial services too, I mean, it's important to realize that you don't necessarily have to tell people every little thing.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of my tax colleagues and things like that, that some of these provisions, I mean, I've had people say to me, they're like, you can't explain this in, a minute. Yeah, that's probably true, but but I don't know that you necessarily need to give them everything.
Yeah.
in order to get people interested and to, ultimately get, as you said, provide value.
Yep. So think about it like this. If you put out a 4 or 5 minute long video that goes through one specific element, and traditionally what you're trying to do is get someone on the phone or come to your office and have that consultation with them so you can develop that rapport and relationship with them in person and give them that information. If they feel they can get all of that from you online, why do they need to call you?
Good point.
You're trying, video is just there to get people to the next step. So your next step is whatever it's meant to be, whether it's going to your website, picking up the phone and calling you, coming by your location, whatever that is. If you give it all away, that's why even in our long form videos, we normally cut it off at around like 3 minutes max. Yeah. Because if you're trying to explain every single thing about your business in 2 minutes or less, you're cramming too much stuff in there. And then it almost seems like you're doing too much at times, depending on what service or industry you're in. It can seem a little chaotic if you do it that way. So it's better to get short snippets out, get people hooked, get people engaged with you, get people liking you. Short form video is really there to make someone like you first.
Yeah.
Because if you like me, it doesn't matter what industry I'm in. I could be selling vacuums, I could be a videographer, I could be an accountant, whatever it is. If you like me, you're going to seek me out.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Let me ask you something, because this is often a pushback that I get, especially in financial services, referral-based business. So, a lot of times, I think especially in financial services, we depend pretty heavily on referral-based business. Person A comes to me for tax preparation. Their child comes to me for tax preparation, and then their grandchild comes to me for tax preparation.
Yep.
It's very much I think, especially in financial services, not that it doesn't exist outside of that, but I think especially in financial services, referral-based business is a big thing. I wonder, though, because I think a lot of, my colleagues, they depend so heavily on that. They wonder why there is still a need to market in other ways. And I would be curious to hear what you would say there.
So I'm a big fan of referral-based business. Not like I told you, probably 50 to 60% of the business we get is from social media. But, that other, 20, 30, 40% that I'm getting, it's coming from somewhere.
Right.
The majority of that's going to be referrals. Right. So here's the other thing, like in that lineage that you kind of listed off, what if that family line gets hacked off?
Yeah, right.
Your source of business is over.
Yeah.
But social media should also be used as a tool for referrals as well. So say, for instance, I'm at a dinner party. A friend of mine's talking and saying, man, like I owed too much money in taxes last year. Like, I don't think I'm working with the right professional. I need to find somebody. Sam, do you have a recommendation? Oh yeah, man, I got somebody. You need to talk to David. Yeah, I'll link you guys up. We go about drinking and having a good time. I'm gonna forget. It's going to happen. I'm gonna forget. I'm not gonna remember to connect.
Yeah.
Next day, I jump on Facebook and your video pops up on my newsfeed. I forgot to hit up John and tell him that he needs to. So I just literally tag him in that video or share it with him and say, hey, John, this is the guy I was telling you about. You need to connect with him. I've now made it easier because of your content. You've made it easier for me to refer business to you.
Sure.
Because if I'm on this device 10, 11 hours a day and it's right in front of me and I can just literally just use the @ symbol and type my friend's name and then he sees what I need him to see, I'm not having to write a letter. I'm not having to do a 3-way call and connect you guys. I don't have to sit down and write out some drawn out email. Because, when you're making those referral emails, you want to hype each other up. Like, hey, this person. So it may take me 5 minutes to write that email. We've already established that people are probably not watching a video that's 3 minutes long. So they damn sure don't want to sit there and write an email. It's going to take them more than 5 minutes to type. Right. But you've simplified the referral process just by making sure that your content's being seen on a daily basis and that can be sent directly off to someone. Because I can't tell you how many times that happens. Like out of the 60% of business we get from social media, I would dare say it's probably 30 to 40% of that is people sending our content to someone else.
So I think what you're saying is you don't have, it works hand in hand. Mm-hmm. It's not an either or type of a thing.
Oh, for sure.
I know, I do a lot of my business on referral basis. You do too. I mean, I think that that's natural.
Absolutely.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but you're right. This can sort of supplement that referral process. And I also think too, if you're doing things and they're good on social media and you're doing things on video that are helpful, it makes that referral even stronger.
Absolutely. So let's not, I don't want to get this convoluted, where referrals are probably the best form of getting business, because think about it like this. If I go to set up, two of my friends are single, and I say, hey, John, my wife's got this friend. I think she's perfect for you. She does this, she does that. She's in this industry, because I know what he's looking for because I'm his best friend. My wife knows the qualities that this woman brings because that's one of her best friends. So we're looking at the needs that both of them have, and we're ultimately pairing them together. Referrals are the same way. Somebody, I'm not just going to send, I mean, I can say this to your face. If you sucked at what you did, even though you're paying us to do video, I'm not going to send people to you. Right. You show me enough to show, hey, this guy knows his stuff. Yeah. And if I come across somebody that needs his services, David's is the first name that comes up. You've shown that value. If someone's bringing you to the table and making that introduction, it makes my job a lot easier. I've already been hyped up. They're like, man, this guy's killing it. Blah, blah. That's how you and I met.
Right. No, it is.
Somebody referred you to me. Right. So initially, that thought that you had in your head, you were being led here by someone that you already trusted. Yep. So the thought in your head was, well, if this guy that I trust them, then it only makes sense that I should trust them as well. Like that guy wouldn't have sent me somebody that, wasn't good at their job.
Sure. Yeah.
So like when you look at it, all these different elements, that's why it's never one thing. Like for certain businesses, you should be doing radio ads. Like that wouldn't work for my business and the demographic that I'm going after. But a business like an accountant and the average everyday person, everybody has to do taxes.
Yep.
So that may be a great medium for you. I would I won't say this. I was about to say I'd never do a billboard. I actually did a billboard one time, but it didn't cost me any money. So I will absolutely do a billboard if it doesn't cost me money.
Yeah.
But not for every business is that going to work. Magazine print, I really don't see a big need for that because my services are digital. The people that need my services are probably not picking up a magazine and reading it every single month. But in an industry like yours, print may be a great place to be. And when you look at these other pockets of marketing and how you can scale your business, a lot of people in your field are probably thinking, oh, well, everybody's going digital, so I'm just going to focus on that. When in fact, like direct mailers or magazines and things like that may be the perfect place for you to be in. But because everybody's chasing the newest, shiniest thing, now that market is wide open for you where you don't have the same competition doing magazine or radio ads as you would go on Facebook or high-end professional video.
Well, and I think that gets into really kind of knowing, the audience that you're targeting too. I mean, and I will say this too about financial services. There are some financial services where it is a volume play.
Oh yeah.
It is how many people can I reach out to? And, I've actually even heard, and some of you will know out there will know what I'm talking about. It's like if I make so many phone calls a day, even if they're cold calls, there's a certain number of people that are going to bite. But then also too, if your firm is more about kind of relationship building, because you're trying to create referral business, you're trying to create, situations where I'm not just doing work for kind of one person, I'm doing work for the entire family.
Yep.
Those are different needs, and your target is probably different, as well. I mean, TV ad campaigns that are nationally focused are probably more volume plays.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes no sense for me to spend $7 million to have a Super Bowl ad because my business is all here in Richmond, Virginia. So why would I waste that money? But if I was on a national level, does that make sense?
Yeah,
probably does. And there's a reason why people are still willing to spend $7 million on an ad campaign for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's because that brand recognition that you're getting from that. I remember some local companies, because you can run Super Bowl ads at a local level and then at a national level too.
Right.
And I remember seeing last year there was a local team, I'm not going to say their name because they're not paying me yet, but there was a local real estate group that ran a Super Bowl ad. And the first thing in my mind, after I took my entrepreneur hat off, my first thought was, man, they probably overpaid for that video. I need to talk to them. But my second thought was, man, they must be doing really well if they have a commercial spot on during the Super Bowl. And it immediately elevates their brand. Like
value.
Like when you talked about people coming up to you and asking about your podcast, there's a certain level of clout that comes with that because not everybody can podcast.
You're right.
So when you tell somebody, hey, I have a podcast, there's that, they clutch their pearls type feeling oh, wow. You have a podcast. Even though it's not that hard. I mean, you have to be a people person. You have to know how to talk and you have to be educated in your space. But I mean, this isn't rocket science what we're doing here right now.
Yeah.
But it still has that appeal to it where because you're doing things that the average person isn't, marketing wise, that makes you look a lot better than everybody else.
So if you're trying to evaluate kind of the effectiveness of, whatever you happen to be doing, you're in the digital space. Are there certain kind of metrics and things like that you look at to try to figure out kind of effectiveness and how, are there certain
for sure
metrics that are out there that you look at?
Not at the same level as someone with your mind would probably do. You're a numbers guy,
Okay.
so you probably look at things way more in depth than I would and be able to get a better analysis. Social media is my business. This is what I do for a living. So when I'm laying on the couch and scrolling through Instagram, I'm not looking at it the same way the average person does. I'm thinking, this is the third time in the last 10 minutes I've seen somebody doing this dance or this trend, or that somebody shot a video this style, or that they started using captions on their video, this, that, or the other. I'm cataloging this stuff and seeing, and then when I'm looking at those things, I'm saying, okay, these videos are getting way more engagement, and I'm starting to dig into somebody's profile. Okay, let me look at the videos before they started doing this style. They were getting about half the views that they were up until now when they added this new style or new dimension to their video content. So it's a process of looking at things like that. It's oftentimes you can just look at what some of the top dogs are doing and you just kind of break it down. So that 3-second thing that I mentioned earlier, I would love to say that was my thought process. That's an old school marketing technique, but I'm breaking that down when I'm looking at someone's video. Why is this video successful? Mm-hmm. What did he title the video? What hashtags did he use? What was his cadence when he was talking? Was he speaking rapidly? Was he slowing down? How many different camera angles did he shoot this at? What colors were the primary colors in this video? There are just a number of things. And I'm not sitting down with a calculator and a pen and pad and sketching all this stuff out. I'm just stamping this in my brain and registering this so that as we're creating content, and I save a lot of this stuff too. If I see a good piece of content and I see it doing well and I want to evaluate it a little bit more, I'll just use the save feature on any of these apps and I'll come back to it later on and do a deeper dive. So there are a number of things you can do to figure these things out. If you decide to go into the podcasting world, you can easily search how many people are podcasting on accounting.
Yeah.
And be able to get a firm number and then go through. I think most people dive into something too quick before doing their research. They're just hey, I'm just going to do a podcast. Well, did you do your research? I'm a big crime junkie podcast.
Yeah.
So that has nothing to do with my podcast. That knowledge that I've gotten from all the killings and murders I've heard on this other stuff, it doesn't help me in this world in my podcast. So I had to dive into a lot more business podcasts to see, okay, how long has this guy been podcasting? How frequently has he been uploading it? What type of guests is he getting on? What's the format of the show? You have to evaluate all this stuff. It's just if you're in sports or something like that. If there's a wide receiver that's getting the starting spot and you're coming off the bench, well, as you're on the sideline, you need to be looking at him on the field and studying him saying, okay, what is he doing different that I'm not doing? Why does he have that starting job and I don't?
What is making that person successful, and what do I need to do to be successful with that? So we talked about kind of short form videos. Mm-hmm. Are there any other big trends that you would say right now that are really kind of sort of prone for opportunity? Talked about Clubhouse, I believe is what you said.
Yeah, there are a couple things in terms of, so you look at storylines for your platform, so Facebook stories or Instagram stories, things like that. One of the big, and this isn't necessarily a trend, I just feel it's something that's worked over the years, is you're trying to engage people. That's the main thing. That's where the algorithms really start kicking in for you. When people start commenting, sharing, clicking through your posts, things like that, the algorithm's working for you and saying, hey, we need to get this out to more people. So a lot of times, on my storyline, I'll do polls. Mm-hmm. So perfect example, we just got past the Super Bowl. So the day of the Super Bowl that morning, I Google search a photo of Chiefs versus Eagles, save that on my camera roll. I go to upload that to my storyline, and I create a poll saying, who do you got winning it all this year, the Chiefs or the Eagles? Nothing to overthink. It's all anybody's talking about that day. But it's an easy way for me to get engagement. The more engagement I get on my storyline, the more that's going to drive people to my page. So looking at things like that, even traditional posts, things outside of video, I use this example for realtors all the time. Take two photos of a primary bedroom, two completely different ones. One's modern, one's farmhouse. and just post those 2 photos up and ask the question, which bedroom would you like to wake up to every day? It's not saying hire me as your realtor. It's not saying I'm the best realtor in town. It's literally just asking people a question. Now, subliminally, any question I'm going to ask is going to have something related back to my field.
Right.
So every time they think of my name, they're going to think of this industry. But it's not rocket science. Like, the stuff that you guys do, putting out something where, have you heard that you can get $10,000 back on this in your taxes?
Right.
The average person has nowhere near the amount of knowledge you guys do. Like, I pay a CPA because I don't have time to study tax laws, and I would suck at it. Like,
right.
No offense to you or anybody listening. If I just had to read financial stuff all day long, my head's going into a wall. Like, my brain does not work that way. Which is why it's important for people to seek out professionals, understand where their strengths and their weaknesses are. But looking at things like that, where it's just going to simply engage people. Another thing, and I have to admit to your listeners, this isn't something I've been doing, but like I'm all over it now. Email marketing.
Yeah.
Like, your campaign, like there is. I gave you the stat that 3.7 million videos are uploaded to YouTube every day. So we already know how many eyeballs we're fighting for, but not everybody has somebody's email address.
Right.
Now, granted, are they going to read every single email that you put out in a newsletter? Probably not, but they continue to see the name. They continue to recognize the brand. So even if they delete my message, they had to see my name pop up.
Well, and it's also about being engaging too, right? I mean, I have a quick trigger finger with my inbox. I delete lots of emails a day, and I think
I'm the same way.
And at one point I actually counted. For those of you keeping score at home, I actually counted how many emails I got in a day, and it's approximately 300 to 400 emails a day.
Wow.
So yeah,
man, I thought I was killing it.
Crazy town.
I'm around like 150 or something like that.
Well, I'm also convinced that I'm on every single mailing list in the history of humankind.
I've started to unsubscribe to stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm notorious for deleting it instead of unsubscribing. Yep. So for those of you also at home, unsubscribe. Don't just delete.
Yep, that's a good point.
But I mean, the engaging part though is like, I mean, if the title catches me and it's something that I'm looking at and I'm kind of thinking about, and especially if it's something that I think that my clients would kind of catch their attention. I think that's worth something. If I'm working for a lot of my car, if a car dealership is a lot of my clients are car dealerships. Mm-hmm. They're probably caring about a lot about these green energy credits and things like that are coming out because it changes how they're marketing their product and I think that that's important to remember too.
For sure.
That's so I think that there's just a lot here, guys. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and I think that I think for a lot of folks, they look at social media as being very intimidating because it's just not something that they're not a space that they're comfortable in. Mm-hmm. Be sure to reach out to people and don't give up on the space. I mean, because I think that I think as Sam has very put very well here today. I mean, if you've taken away anything here, it's that that social media. There's a lot of stuff out there, but the quality of stuff that's going to engage people, that's really going to make a difference, that stuff is more sparse.
Absolutely. Any idiot can pull out their cell phone and record something, but it's who's going to pay attention to those details. And it's not meaning that you have to have a degree in cinematography to figure this stuff out. It's just you figure out a couple different things. Like, I know, like, I typically shoot from higher or lower angles because we all see at eye level.
Yeah.
So in a creative space, if I'm able to show somebody at a different angle that they typically couldn't see it in person, that elevates the video. You watch any superhero movie. Anytime the villain has gotten knocked down and the superhero standing up, how do they show the superhero? The camera angle is all the way at the bottom to make him look larger than life.
Right.
When they're showing the villain being knocked down, the camera angle's from the top and making the villain look small while he's down there. Good so point. Like, when you look at different little things like that, I mean, it all stacks up to big things, but I've seen people, flourishing, and they're just doing the dumbest stuff and they're having fun. One of the biggest things is just having fun. If you're enjoying it, whether it's a podcast or video or something like that, if people can genuinely see that you enjoy what you're doing, I don't care if you're filming on, a Razor phone, like from the 90s, like, people are going to watch the content.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, so folks, have fun with it. I mean, I think that's the big takeaway here. Have fun with it. Find out where your people, your potential clients are, where your partners are, and have some fun with it. I mean, that's really what this is all about. And frankly, if you're having fun, they're going to have fun too.
Absolutely.
Speaking of having fun, this has been a lot of fun here today.
Yeah, this was a blast.
Sam, I enjoy talking with you a lot. So if people want to get a hold of you and they might be interested in some of the things that you bring with Enso, how would they be able to do that?
Yep. So Instagram, Facebook, everything, just search Mr. Preneur, YouTube, Mr. Preneur, Preneur. It took me a while after I became an entrepreneur to be able to spell entrepreneur. Like, it's crazy how that worked out.
Yes.
Our media firm, Enso Media Firm, Enso spelled ENSO. So you can find us at enzomediafirm.com and then just search Enso Media Firm across all social media platforms.
Thank you so much for joining us on Accountable here today. Sam, I've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, David.
Thanks so much, guys. See you next time.